Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a number of debates that have been held at universities, or so-called debates, held at universities around probably more Britain, but also the Western world more broadly, but I'll focus more on the British debates about mass migration. Is it an unalloyed good? Is it bad? Is it helpful? Does it add value? Is it a terrible thing? And so on. Now, the university crowds, and I'm sure they heavily stack them in this sense, are very much in favour of, if not in favour of mass migration, they're virulently opposed to any arguments against mass migration, which maybe better describes the position. So those that are arguing in favour of mass migration have a rapture, the crowd's an absolute rapture over these people, that they're social justice warriors fighting back against the Nazis and so on. So whereas the speakers that talk against mass migration in these debates, they're constantly jeered, heckled and harassed as they try and talk, whereas those in favour of mass migration don't get any heckling, jeering or harassment at all, which pretty much sums up the crowd there. Now, there's one I looked at where the panel that was supposed to judge the debate was all made up of this is in England, by the way, Ivy League universities, all made up of non-white people. The president of the debating club spoke in broken English in a very thick accent, introducing the speakers in England, for fuck's sake. So that pretty much sums up the position the university has. That they don't want to obviously have themselves portrayed in any way as being even mildly critical of mass migration, but I just want to concentrate on the different arguments. Now, the speakers, the various speakers that are against mass migration pointed out, and it's not hard now, given the body of evidence, point out the facts, that the amount of mass migrants that are illiterate peasants with an IQ of 70, I mean, what are they going to contribute to anything? The amount of them that are brought in through people smuggler networks. There's nothing organic about this people movement at all. This idea they're escaping death and destruction is nonsense. The amount of them end up as slave labour and are horribly exploited. The amount of them end up claiming government benefits from the moment they set foot in the place. And on and on, the vast army of NGOs that provide free legal services that aren't available to other people. And then the extent to which, in efforts to integrate or even begin to integrate, or the attempt to integrate, then there has to be this vast affirmative action network, diversity, equity, inclusion network, race quotas and so on network, to even begin to scratch the surface of integration, and it still doesn't work. So the 5 or 6 generations down the track, Indians are still sending back the husbands and brides from the village of their ancestors. So the rates of integration are low. The only way these people can get jobs is through affirmative action, and the only way they can get college degrees is through affirmative action and diversity quotas and so on, all merit. So it's all of these things: the cost, the liability, and the non-integration, the crime rates. All these things are hardcore facts that can be put up. But to even talk about these facts means that you're a fascist Nazi Hitler. So it kind of just goes over the audience's head. Well, the mere fact you're saying that means you're Hitler. Now, so the argument against mass migration couldn't be more persuasive from a factual basis. But from an airy-fairy, sort of simple-minded, girly sort of world perspective, mass migration, well, what's wrong with it? Everybody's a human being. That sort of attitude is really all pervasive. Now, one of the speakers particularly galled me, well, they all did actually. One of the speakers in favour of mass migration, none of them actually cite, and the facts they attempted to cite, did you know that And they'll claim that 100% of migrants that arrive, and within 1 second of arriving, they all have triple PhDs, and they're all engineers, they're doctors, and they're this and they're that. I'm blatant lying, and just inventing facts that supposedly exist. There's 0% that ever claim any government benefits. What? So they have to rely very heavily on the most grotesque untruths to sort of even attempt to push their case. But for the most part, they don't rely on facts at all, or attempt to, or even pretend that something's a fact. They rely on the moral argument, and the moral argument comes down to this: look, if you're against mass migration, you are Hitler. Who wants to listen to what Hitler has to say? That's it. Nobody. Everybody clap and cheer. Nobody wants to listen to it. Therefore, anything they say can be invalidated and delegitimized by the fact that they are Hitler, and therefore end the discussion. Thank you, debate over, and off they walk. Now, one woman who engaged, the tactic is to really just present a moral position. They're all Hitler over there. Why would you want to listen to Hitler? What has Hitler got to say that you want to hold as valid? That they say this, but Hitler would say that, and so on. And so it's presented in that sense, and there's no actual rebuttal of the claims. London has gone from being 96% white 25 years ago to being 37% white today. Now, if you say, well, gee, isn't that a problem? Isn't that an indication of how the extent of mass migration? To merely say that means you're Hitler, and therefore your opinion, your point of view, your concerns, your worries, your statistics, everything can be dismissed on the basis of, well, you must be Hitler, and they don't go beyond that. They don't. Well, what about if Pakistan went from being 99% Pakistani to being 30% Pakistani, and there were black people from Africa in there? How about that? Oh no, that's not allowed. Oh no, that would affect our culture. No. So white culture is illegitimate. White culture doesn't exist. White culture is evil. White culture is Hitler. White culture is colonialism. White culture, and so on. Therefore, we can do whatever we want to that culture, denigrate it, destroy it, eradicate it, because it's so evil. It's the Hitler culture. Whereas our culture, if you try and do anything to that means you're an evil fascist, Nazi, Hitler, colonial, whatever. So they're able to run sort of an argument that if it happens in their country, it's wrong, but if it happens in a white country, then it's fine, it's good, it's wonderful. But the way they attack the speakers on the pro-immigration side, oh, and you know what so-and-so said? They said so-and-so, everybody laugh and clap and cheer. That's just the sort of thing Hitler would say, everybody clap and cheer again. And no attempt to really rebut the argument. Now, that one woman speaking, I'll concentrate on now. Again, her position is the other side has no moral standing, therefore we don't have to listen to them. That's really the end of it. The debate was over at that point as far as she was concerned. She is morally superior, and thus her opinion, even though it has no facts in it, does count. So, and she came out with things like, well, what they just want signs saying no blacks allowed anywhere. They just want hanging to come back so black people can be hung over any tree, and these sorts of what? Who said that? I mean, wow. And it shows that the gender studies and the radical sort of race politics that this woman's involved in, that's all it sort of illustrates. But I want to come back. Now, one of her parents, I think she's got an English mother, and a Pakistani or Bangladeshi, I think, Indian maybe father, and who was some sort of public servant and so on. And when the independence movement kicked off in that area, they were, because the father was married to a white woman, they got a lot of racist hatred and so on. And the sort of pretty decent job the guy had, he wasn't going to have once the brown people took over. So they were, I wouldn't say kicked out necessarily, but it was prudent to leave. of the country, and due to the racism that brown people were racist to them. So now she claims to be just an immigrant. That's not really true. The mother was British anyway, so English anyway. So that's not really just an immigrant, just someone who ponies up to the coast and just so to present herself as an immigrant or a family rather. She's born in England came as a young age. She's like 2 or 3 years old or something. She came to England. So now the globalist machine picked her up fairly early. She's not particularly bright, that's obvious. But the globalist machine picked her up fairly early and decided to make a brown poster child out of her. And particularly given that it's a brown-white marriage, that they really wanted to push her out there. And so she was gifted positions at Ivy League universities, gifted student activist positions, gifted NGO type gigs. It was arranged to again create the poster child. She was given an endless amount of book publishing deals, speaking tour deals, the whole sort of thing. So she was turned into a wealthy woman, all because of diversity, equity, inclusion. I mean, she hasn't earned any of it, none of it, but she's got that strange faux confidence to disagree with me and you're a Nazi. That's that's the sole basis of her moral superiority. And then I think she married a white merchant banker, part of the globalist elite there. So we're talking a very, very privileged person who hasn't earned any of it, in my opinion, who's running around spouting how morally imperfect and unvirtuous the other side is. So but she didn't come out with a single sort of reason why mass migration should continue, or should even have happened in the first place, or how to benefit. She airily mentioned our business wants mass migration. Okay, well, sure, they all want cheap peasant labor. I get that, but isn't that a problem in itself? Because that's tearing apart economic merit at all levels, and it's turning Britain and the West into a basket weaver type society that where she or her parents came from. I mean, do you want that? Is that what you want? Because that's what's happening. So didn't produce any argument. It was thoroughly unconvincing. Now she could make, they just want to have no blacks allowed. That's what all they want. To the cheering, the rapturous cheering of the the college kid girls who look starry-eyed at this strong woman who's earned nothing, achieved nothing, accomplished nothing. But so I couldn't find a single speaker who supported mass migration. They all went down the moral road of it. It's only Hitler would oppose it. They all went down that road, but not one of them came up with a single reason why it should continue or why it should have happened in the first place. These people are escaping poverty and little girls dressed in pink. Do you want to stop that? You fucking Nazi. But other than that, they've got nothing. There are a few lies that they kept trotting out. Well, these illiterate third world peasants, they triple the productivity of the country. No, they don't, you lying fuck. But other than that, there was nothing. Whereas I thought every speaker against the mass migration was quite persuasive, based purely on facts. They didn't rely on moral arguments. They didn't attack the other side as being Hitler. So this was really the divide, which goes to show mass migration actually has no basis in anything factual or organic or necessary or anything at all. And it's staggering that it's come this far, and the globalists are absolutely wedded to it. And it's my view now that given the globalists have lost control of the United States temporarily, that they're doubling down in all the other white Western countries, particularly the English-speaking ones. So they're really leaning heavily on the places like Britain and Australia to like super turbocharge your mass migration. And maybe when as the globalists have got rid of the the Trump policies, we can then start moving those people, extra people you brought in, moving them to the United States, and to counteract the effect, that type of thing. So it is my firm view now that as the US administration under globalist control strong-armed every Western country to take mass migration, even when they didn't want it, and to get rid of any politician that was opposed to it, and to interfere with elections to make sure pro-globalist politicians were put in positions of authority. It's now, I believe, Trump must use the power of the United States to put all that into reverse and just say to Australia or Britain, you stop mass migration right now. Otherwise, the power of the United States economy will be used against you in the same way the globalists used that power to promote mass migration. And I think that Trump has to do it now, starting today, whether it be Australia or America, New Zealand, Canada. The power of the US economy must be used to stop mass migration and to encourage and facilitate mass deportation. Whether that's self-deportation or not, all benefits must be cut off from these people, and they'll self-deport. It doesn't matter. All sending back for brides and husbands that must be stopped. And all remittances will be taxed at 50% or 100% or whatever. Do these things, and there'll be mass self-deportation. But I believe the Trump administration must use the power of the US economy now to while it can, to unwind, because the globalists are radically doubling down on all the other countries. Now they've lost control of the US. And I believe the Trump administration must counter that globalist move, and the earlier the better. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.